Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. Liverpool could have been lost in the fog, but they found their way through against a Leicester team that scored early that maybe just skewered how we all saw things. We've got West Ham coming up tomorrow as well. There's an interesting few stats around. Here to talk me through it all is a man who's probably looking forward to getting back to the sun and not enjoying the cold. But how is the UK finding you and your climate right now?
Honestly, you don't come back to the UK for the heat day at Christmas. You come back to be Christmassy and the rest of it. And yeah, we've got exactly that. But there are moments when you wander out for down the local shop for a pint of milk and it's 3 degrees, and you do wonder, why am I doing this when I was doing it in 30 degrees about a week ago? But anyway, it is what it
Yeah,
is. It's been wonderful, really. It's been good. So
there we go. And Liverpool bought us a festive treat, didn't they, people? It was a strange one, this. I think because of what happened, Bart, earlier in the day, because Chelsea lost, Harry Wilson obviously
yeah.
did his magic, and people like that brought a pressure. So I think people were thinking, this is Leicester. They're absolute dog turd. Like, we're going to batter these. Do you think there's an element before we sort of steer into the stats where people were like, because we went 1-0 down quite early, it maybe skewed how people actually saw the game against the actual reality of what happened?
Yeah, I mean, before we get into stats, I think there's always an element of that. And I think because you get, we talk about it a lot on Under Pressure about fighting the last war and having thoughts about last season and scars and the rest of it. And there's still a bit about that because you get worried, oh no, we've gone 1-0 down again. That could lead to A, B,
Yeah,
C, D. And you start predisposing what you think might happen in the game, especially early on. But I think something I've tried to do, and again we've tried to say on other pods, is just these boys are legit good. Like these
yeah,
boys are legit elite, right? So yes, all right, we conceded a early goal. Fair enough. It happens, right? It's the first time they got in our box in our half. It's some bit of Grab actually does what he's supposed to do. Six is supposed to pop in when the right back's inverted and pressing.
yeah.
The six is supposed to pop in and play right back. Trent could have come back and double backed a bit better, fair enough. But Gomez is in the right position. VVD could have done better with the cross as well. Grab could have done better with the cross. And Robbo, I have to be honest, I don't even know what he's trying to do there, but he gets sold some sort of turn from one of the let's be kind, industrious forwards in the league.
Yeah,
Okay? And again, sometimes you run hot. When we talk about running hot statistically, it means you're not considered as much as you should do, and we have been doing that. So this is now reverting a little bit to the norm because that shot was going straight at Ali, flicks off VVD's boot and goes in the corner. So he turns something
yeah,
that is a 3% chance to a 0.99 chance Ali's got no chance with. And this is the second sort of time, Fulham, a similar kind of thing happened. A ricochet happens and it goes in. And that's just, unfortunately, football's a ball sport. Little nicks here and there can deviate the
yeah.
path of the ball very quickly, and it leaves your keeper at that level with no chance. So that stuff happens. But I think we'll come on to some of the breakdown as we go forward. But I think then you just have to say these boys have shown over the 20 odd games that Slott's been in charge. And to be fair, large parts of our season that they are more
True.
than good enough of finding a solution. It might not be the classic, let's get in there, get a clean sheet, batter these. But I don't think I was worried at all about our ability to win this game. I really did it. And did it annoy me? Yeah, because I wanted a clean sheet. But as I always want a clean sheet. But I just thought Leicester are not got. They're not offering us a lot. Actually, it is what it is. They actually just went to. I thought they would be a low block. That's what I thought. I thought they'd try and hit us on a counter. So in terms of their game plan, scoring early didn't really change what they were going to do. It just meant that
No.
they sat a little bit more deeper and for longer. But I think us as fans, and I'm guilty at times as well, get way too worried about previous stuff. And I think this side are legitimately, and I can't stress that enough, they are elite and they are currently the best side in Europe. And you've got to take heartness in that because it won't come along. These times don't come around again. You've got Konate not far away. You've got Bradley not far away. Then you've got a fairly fit, touch wood, finding some wood to touch, squad that can go on ramp into the second half of the season. So yeah, I thought it's a long-winded way of me saying to you, no, I wasn't worried. So yeah,
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see, do the stats bear that out. A lot's been talked about Leicester's lack of action, lack of chances, how Liverpool dominated. So let's have a look then, because it'd be interesting to talk in terms of first half and second half parts, because I suppose people will punctuate the first half that, oh, it only changed when Gakpo hits that wonder strike in the last minute. But it did feel like we were on top, and then second half did feel like cruise control, but we'll see if that bears out in the stats.
Top line here, which the boys would have covered on UP last night, but you've got, penalty box touches 51 to 30. That's a huge difference. Field tilt nearly 60 to 40. So that's the amount of time you spend in your attacking third, the opposition's defensive third. So we were dominant there. 24 to 9 shots. I mean, that's a really high amount of shots to be having. As a defensive side, to concede that number of shots, that's a key thing to remember when we come on to preview West Ham. That's a ridiculous amount of shots to concede, to be honest with you.
But I've just realised here, is that Spurs on the screen and not Leicester?
Yeah. Good point there, Mr. Man. He's got me coming.
Just me, I was looking and thinking like, yeah, that was there. And then I was like, it was slightly different. It's me there thinking, yeah.
My bad. Give me 2 seconds. Cool. As when you stand live and you're running and you're trying to get stuff sorted.
Because I was thinking like, here we go. That looks more
like
it.
So, penalty box touches even more. 60 to 4. Apologies, guys. Field tilt incredibly high to our favour. That looks more like it. 19 shots to 4. So again, still pretty dominant. You shouldn't be conceded that many. And then we go through and we have a look at our shots on target, 7 to 1. So that's a little bit low for us. But I think that if you're watching the game, you kind of get a bit more about where you are. And our choices in the penalty box particularly weren't sharp as they could have been, should we say? Considering we had 14 penalty box shots, we only had 7 of them on target. So that gives you a little bit of story. XG 2 for us, and we only let them create 0.3. So we kept their threat to XG conversion down at around 42, which is incredibly low. Unfortunately, we also didn't do very well with our threat. So we created nearly 4.5 threat. We only converted 44% of that, which is quite low. That's really low for us. We're normally in around the 100, 120 mark. So that's as an overall step. And apologies, guys, I have got the right game now, I promise you. We look at the halves breakdown. So this is where people, I think you need to take a step back. I said stop fighting the previous war, as Darth would say. But you've got here, first half, we had 66% possession. So fairly dominant, right?
Yeah.
Touches, nearly 450 to their 230. That's incredibly dominant. We were on the ball for 26 minutes to their 15, just over 15. So again, more on ball time. Shots, 10 to 4. That's a dominant performance we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Penalty box touches. We got in their penalty box 31 times. They got an hour's 3. Right. That's a huge difference, right? This is in the first half where everyone thought we were rubbish, right? Big chances, we didn't create any, and we only created 1 in the whole game. But that's a symptom of what we were doing in that final third. But to say we weren't dominant, I think is wrong. To say we weren't quite our usual self in terms of creating quality chances is probably more accurate. 0.8 XG to their 0.3. Again, that final process part isn't quite there, but we created the threat. 2.5 threat. That's a huge amount of threat to create in the first half. And then possession, a pass accuracy 88%. So a lot of people were saying that we weren't quite on it. A few loose passes, which is fair because we're normally around 90%. Long ball passes 28. I can't do quick maths, but that's a fairly high amount. And the crosses, I think from memory from Site said Lumsden last night, I think we had over 50 crosses in the whole game, and 30 of those were in the first half. So a really high cross rate. And that's typically what happens when you spend a lot of time in the final third. And I'm not saying you run out of ideas, but your option isn't quite on. So you eventually go, do you know what? I'm just going to put a ball in. You know, you look up and I've got 3 players in the box. I'm going to put a ball in, and that's what was happening in the first couple of minutes with the Mo chance. That's the reverse tactic that Mo's been doing, which is Mo does an outswinging ball to the back post, which normally Cody or Diaz is there to finish off. Or CJ, Cody does the reverse in this game, and Mo, the keeper, makes a save somehow. I don't really know how that's not done as a big chance because he's literally 4 yards out at Mo Salah. But anyway, by the way. So apart from that, though, we didn't really get good opportunities in the box. So we were then looking at them camped in. So we went back to panic's a bit harsh, but there is a default of I'll just put it in there. I'll just put it in there. And I think in the whole game, I think Trent crossed it 30 times and Robbo 29. So as the whole game. So, you know, that's a massive amount of crossing to be done. And if they're not, and they weren't very accurate, you're not going to get the opportunities for you. The disappointing element for me with that was that we probably had the forward on the pitch that supposedly has a reputation for being able to deal with a cross, i.e. Nunes. And it didn't really work for him. I think it was another game which passed him by, if I'm being kind to him. Second half, if we look at that change where people thought we were exponentially better. And I thought, so again, possession actually slightly lower, 60-40 split. On ball time, slightly less. So that actually indicates it was out of play more than it was in play, which is fine because theirs is still around the 15 mark. Phil Till, still roughly around 90-10. So there you go. On target shots 5-0. So they didn't have any on target shots. They actually had no shots in the second half.
Wow.
So they didn't produce any XG in the second half. So from that perspective, yeah, sure. Second half was incredibly dominant, right? And we tweaked what we did on the ball, which is more key. Our passing percentage went up to about 93 from 88. So, yeah, a little bit different. Still didn't really convert the threat anything near our usual levels at around. We converted here at 46%. So, yeah, that's the threat conversion stayed roughly the same. We created the same amount of threat and converted another 10%, should we say. But we did get the all-important goal, or the all-important goals, should we say. Just looking at some of the other bits. So in terms of people know I normally run on Monte Carlo, which is looking at probabilities of what the likelihood of a score would be based on the chances we created. Done if you played the game in this instance, I run it for 10,000 times. So 10,000 times, what would be the most likely score? And the most likely score was actually 2-0, which I think if you look back at that, that's the number of shots I had, the amount of XG. Yeah, I can see that kind of fits for me, and that gives us an 83, or round it up, should we say, 83% win probability. So I think the result wasn't a shock in the end. It just maybe the way in which we got there wasn't as comfortable as people wanted. But if we look at a bit of that second half, first half split, because I think you said that is probably the key way people are thinking about. So this is our first half pass map. And again, there's not a lot to hate about that.
No.
You know, Darwin's got some links there, which is nice. Typically, he doesn't actually link in with the forward line, but he's a bit deep. Trent is very inverted, which he was all game. So we don't have a lot of width on the right hand side, which is a problem, and which is where you ended up with them just crossing the ball in because there's no option out here. You've got Mac, Grav and CJ all in roughly the same box, which is a bit of a problem. You normally like to have depth in your midfield play. But your two wingers are high, wider in relation to the team, but not in terms of the pitch. So that's not too far off some of how we play. If we look at what we did second half, though, you have here a bit more width on the right-hand side, but we're interested we come in on the left. So we narrow on the left, we get great width, but it means we create greater passing around this right-hand half space. We also have 1, 2, 3, nearly 4 players in zone 14, which, as people know, is a key area for developing passes from. So we we have a little tweak there. We have greater shape between the back four, so they become more of a traditional arc rather than inversion or not. So that's worked out well. And we have a little bit of depth in midfield with Mac dropping in a bit. But generally, we just this area here, 14 and the right half space, we then look to completely dominate in the second half. If we go to passing analysis and we look here. So here in the first half, we were getting the ball into these areas, but weren't really progressing it into the box. If we look at second half, you'll see here we've got a lot more opportunities which are then moved into the box. So we've got even later on we have. So we have a lot more right side and zone 14 dominance in terms of those passes, which is indication of what we were doing. So we spent a lot more, and I would suggest we kind of almost moved. We moved through those phases better. We got Mo into slightly better positions, and it also meant that he wasn't quite as double banked as he was in the first half, which meant that he came more into the game. So I think in terms of long passes, not really a story for us. They still stuck with that tactic. They were still pinging it long into the channels here, and then here. Whereas we changed it a little bit more to here. We were completely going out to the left, which is Trent crossing it, switching it, and then trying to go in. Second half, we just literally kept playing it into Mo's area down here. And then if needed to, we'd also switched it out to our Cody was out here as well. So we changed tactics slightly with our long ball rate as well. So that's sort of on ball, if you like. Off ball, which people often talk about. If you look at the defensive actions map for us, I just find first half. First half here for us was, okay. I mean, sorry, CPV, go back one. That's threat production. Yeah. So if we do first half for us, there's a big gap in the middle of the pitch. So we basically we're letting their sticks and their centre halves have the ball. Right, and then we targeted their right and left wingers. That's what we did first half. So you see, I think also where people got a bit worried is there were a lot of balls went straight through the middle of us. A lot. I say that invertedly. When Leicester attacked, if they did, they tried to break through the middle. Okay, and that is there because we weren't putting anything down on that and that area. Where second half, we close that gap here, and you can see we get very concentrated around this right half space, around zone 14 and the left half space to try and win it back higher in those areas and then play into that area and play into the box. So, there is a definite change in what we do off the ball. What we do with the ball off the ball. So this is first half. So this is showing you when we win the ball, what do we do afterwards? Where do we play it and who do we play it to? First half, it's not as uniform as Tottenham was. Tottenham was very uniform in what we did. You could see we were trying to get into certain areas after we won it. Here's a bit, just find a player. Second half, if I can get there, if I can just I can move my screen around a bit. Apologies. Here you've got a bit more concentrated into the wide areas. It's still not as uniform as we'd like, but there's a little bit more direction around it. So, I think there was a change. There was a tweak in our favour. I think it was first half, we were camped in their area, but we weren't quite getting the balls and the quality of passing in the way we would normally expect us to do. Second half, we reduced the crosses by about a third, I think it was. And we just, rather than pass into zone 14 on the half spaces, we were in there and we were looking then to feed in and out and control those areas more, which they fundamentally couldn't handle towards the end because we were starting to create opportunities, maybe not a chance, a little bit more readily. So that's probably in a roundabout way of answering your question about the first half, second half split.
Interesting. And when you see the standouts there, it's because people I think will punctuate the game a little bit by the goals and what happened when they exist. An equaliser late, and then Salah's is a wonder goal. It's a great team goal for CJ to score as well, and people will look at it like that. Is it fair to say, though, Bart, based on what we brought up there and what we saw, that, I mean, the field tilt, the passing Yes, there was a tweak in the second half. There's no debates about that. Slot works his magic, and you can see they changed the less crosses, the direction of play slightly. But it's fair to say both halves really were punctuated as dominant, weren't they? I mean, they didn't have a single shot in the second half. We dominated this game of football. It might just be, like you said, there's that fight in the internal war, that worry after what had happened early in the day that we were going to pass up the chance. Dominance the word, though, isn't it?
100%. It's there is no. If you look at the phases of the game stats, it's just bar. I mean, they don't have a shot. So the 0 to 15, which is where they score, right? They have 2 shots, and they get a goal, and they create 0.3 xg. After that point, they don't create anything. And when I mean anything, there's no xg produced. There's very little threat. There's like 0.16, 0.20, right? There is no penalty, but there's 1, 2. They get in our box 2 more times in the entire game after 15 minutes, right, guys? So this is not, and this is what I'm saying to people, need to get out of this mindset of what's gone on before. This is slots Liverpool. They are different. If you need a point of reference, you need to be feeling how you felt in 18, 19 or 19, 20, because that's what these boys are like. They're very much like, what do we need to win this game? We are going to go and do that. You know, if you just look at the field tilt, post the game seeing the goal, we were nearly at 100% in their box, right? 88, 94, 93, 70. It's just, it's bar that first 15-minute period where they got a lucky break. They weren't in our half, let alone our box. It's not even a contest, really. It was just a point at which, at what point are we actually going to do something intelligent in their box and score? And Cody got the goal for half time, which I do think was key. And I thought Cody was pretty good on the night, to be honest with you. And then second half, we just kept going through the gears, changed our approach slightly, and we got the goals. I think we were unfortunate with the offside VAR goal. I'm not entirely convinced Nunes was offside, but by the by, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's interesting, I was going to say, because you mentioned Gakpo there, and he was the official sponsors man of the match. There's a bit of a debate on this, but I am intrigued in terms of what the stats say. How does the data profile for man of the match?
So we look here. This is Cody. Okay. He outperforms 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 or 7 metrics there. So aerials, duels, threat creation, and shots. So 2 on ball, 2 off ball. He outperforms his compatriots in the same positional, right? And he's in line for on ball time and possession. And he's slightly under for passes. But to be honest with you, our wide forwards generally, that's a stat they don't normally overperform at, because we don't ask them to do that. If we look at the rest of our team, if I just blow that up a little bit so everybody can see that, there aren't many other players who are overperforming. What you're looking for is a pizza or a slice that is beyond the black dot. Yeah. So Van Dijk, all right, he's above on aerials, but everything else is kind of in and around the positional average. Trent has created more threat, more shots. Yeah, you kind of expect that for per his position, right? So fullback don't generally shoot a lot, so that's why he's outperformed there. But he's in line for possession, he's in line for passes, so there's not a great deal. The only other ones that I would say, Barmo, because to be honest with you, I hope people don't forget how good Mo Salah is, because the guy is on another level at the moment, and he really should be winning every single player award going. Like, there's Player of the Year coming out, PFA Player of the Year. It shouldn't even be a contest. People talk about Cole Palmer, get away with you. Mo Salah is on a different level here. Saka's injured now for a large part of this season, and even he was 5-10 down on goals and assists for Mo. So Mo is literally on his own planet at the moment, doing what Mo does. So in any game, he will perform well in the metrics because he's just doing most stuff.
Yeah.
So it's almost unfair to compare other players to him. But in terms of us as another data-led option, Mac here has outperformed in terms of threat creation and possession and aerials and duels. So in 2 of the similar metrics, Mac is done as well, not quite as well as Cody, but In terms of his position, that is another standout performer for me. And that's the second game in a row. I thought Mac was brilliant in the last game. I think Mac's putting together a quietly little effective run of games here. He's just like Tottenham. I thought he was brilliant. Bar the on-ball error for Maddison's goal, I thought Mac was just very good at just making sure we kept the ball ticking over. Largely what he did in this game and soaking up and being in there. So, yeah, if I was to offer an alternative that wasn't Mo Salah, I thought Mac was pretty exceptional. Joe and Virgil were fine, but I'm still I have a hard time giving defenders a man of the match when they literally had 3 touches in the penalty box to deal with and they let them score. So, that might be a bit harsh, but I just think if the opposition only has limited opportunities and you didn't stop them, I'm not sure I can give you a man of the match. Just to give you a counter, I thought the Oppo, the guy who I think this guy I'm not going to try and pronounce his. I think he put the
Nakadidi, good player.
So this is what he did. So I always try and look at a comparison. So the Tottenham game, I did Dom and Mads, and this is similar to what Cody would have done for them. He was their greatest threat creator. I'm not saying a lot because they didn't create a lot, but he did win a lot of duels and he was in line for possession and on ball time. So it gives you a bit of a comparison. But yeah, so for me, Cody was a good choice for official man of the match. I think he's going for a really good period for us. I think he's having his role simplified has really helped his game. Not asking him to play 3 different roles in Pep Lijnders' world probably has helped him. But if I was to offer an alternative, I would have said Mac was a fairly decent shout for that as well.
Yeah, there were some good performances. And you're right, probably Mac has just, in a weird way, just benefited from that kind of double suspension, the Everton delay, that week off. Looks like it's really, really suited him. Gakpo in good form. Bart says that it's just almost unfair to compare normal humans to Mo Salah, really, isn't it? At the end of the day, he's always going to be up there. So there you go, ladies and gents. It might have felt tight at the time, but absolutely dominant against Leicester. Now we turn to West Ham, don't we? And I mean, West Ham are a funny team, Bart. So if you look at just the pure retail stats, I mean, 18 played, literally everything, people. 6 wins, 5 draws, 7 defeats. I mean, it's not far off, Bart, being like a third split on everything. Like, you just don't know what's going to turn up with West Ham. But you look at that, I mean, to have only scored 23 goals, but to have shipped 30, I mean, just to be clear, people, when we're like the 5th worst defence in the Premier League, and it looks like they're going to have a few suspensions or injuries, like Kilman's going to be out at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, it's not all happy under Lopetegui. You talk about the threats as well. Jared Bowen. Everyone knows about Jared Bowen. I mean, 5 goals, that's not... I like Bowen. I think he's a talented player. You probably expect him to have a bit more, but he's still going to be a threat. People will be looking at Kudus at the same time as well. Again, not too many goals and assists. Souček is suspended, so he's not got a stuffy set piece up here, his locker type of thing, so it will be interesting to see. But I am intrigued what the in-depth stats say on West Ham, Barts, because I always, whenever I see West Ham, I always think, number 1, they lack control. Number 2, there's going to be goals in this game. I just don't know if West Ham are going to score them or West Ham are going to concede them. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, this is on the stat, but this is publicly available site, but it's not in there. People don't refer to it as much as FBrief or FOTMob. I think because they don't have an app, so I don't know it's there. But if you look at it, what they do, this is just EPL, by the way. So we're taking out all the cup games and anything else they play. West Ham are here. So West Ham scored 23 and 30, as you said. They've got one of the worst defences in the league, bar Wolves, bar the bottom 3, to be fair, isn't it? I think bar the bottom 4. So yeah, they're not great defensively. And actually, if you look at what on the stat I've got is XGA, which is expected goals they're supposed to have conceded. They're actually supposed to have conceded 36. So they're actually running hot defensively. So they've got the 5th worst defense, but they're actually running hot. So that means that that, like we've said, we've reverted to the mean because we were running a bit hot. they could very much start reverting to the mean over the next period of games, because this is kind of a time when it starts happening, which would be interesting. And they've scored 23, so they are underperforming that by 5. So you could get a bit of reverting at either end, but it's still not. That's just not. I mean, look at us. We've scored nearly double the amount of goals they have, and nearly half the amount of goals they have. So we are bang on now for conceding goals. So that's us. We've said on UP, or Darper said, we were running a bit hot, and this reversion to the mean is now shown in the data. We are now pretty much bang in line with what we should have conceded. Yeah. Scoring wise, we're under. We're still underperforming by a little bit, which I think if you look at some of the bigger chances we've had and not taken, Tottenham. I mean, there was a myriad of chances. I mean, I know we often say in a big win that could have been anything. We literally could have got 8 that day, and no one would have taken a note of it. So that's West Ham in a big arch. If you look at F-Brief, if we go to there though, why is that happening for West Ham? And some of the things, if you click on the against the team tab, and you look down here about the shots they concede, right? So that's the number of shots they concede a game. So apart from Leicester away, which they won, they have conceded 18, 19, 18, 18, 14, 19, 29, 12 and 18 shots against in a game. Now, the last time out, they conceded 18 shots against Southampton. I'm not entirely sure how that's possible. We put a scratch side out against them in the Carabao and beat them. I'm not sure how that's possible. The people we played the other Leicester, they conceded 8-2. Okay, fair enough. The other one, the last side they played that was, I would say, are having a very good season, Bournemouth, they conceded 29 shots to.
Jeez.
That's an incredible amount of shots to concede to decent opposition, right? And conversely, why are they not scoring as many? Well, because largely they're only taking about 10, 11 shots, 16, 11, 15, 19, 31. All right, that's against Leicester. That was just before the guy got sacked, wasn't it? So 11-4. They're not shooting as much, and they're letting other people shoot a lot. Though in very rudimentary and basic stats, those are two things you don't want to happen in a game of football. You know, if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle, right? If you don't shoot, you don't score. And equally, if you let the opposition shoot that much, eventually they'll probably score. Particularly if you're playing someone like Liverpool who've got Mo Salah. I would suggest Jota's probably going to play. Diaz is probably going to play. They're all in and around taking good shots at the moment. Mo particularly, and they've got a good goal scoring rate relatively over the season. Jota's a little bit low because he's been injured, and Nunes is very low, as we've said. But yeah, I just think if you give someone like Liverpool that amount of opportunity to score, you're asking for. I mean, if we go back to our classic, we looked at previous previews on XG. So XGA, they're conceding against that Southampton, they gave them 1.4. They shut down Brighton, interestingly. They're around the 1.5, 2. So, but they're only creating 1. Yeah. So I think there's a bit of variance in the West Ham stats. But the amount of shots they are conceding, I would be really surprised if we don't score. Really surprised.
Yeah.
And don't score our usual.
Yeah. Even as you were saying that, I was thinking, if West Ham want to give the likes of Salah, Diaz, and Jota 29 shots on goal, all the best, lads, in all honesty, really, if you think that tactic's going to help. And just underlying numbers, people, it doesn't make for bad reading, put it that way. And then at the same time, if you think Bart's, Kilman out, Souček out, I think Soler likely to be out. The keeper Fabianski went off injured. There's a lot to like. I think you don't want to preempt this, and I'm touching wood this time as well. We are going to be massively disappointed if Liverpool don't get on that score sheet for obvious reasons. The stats and data tell us, won't we?
Yeah, it's a key game for us. We have to keep this little run we've got back going. We've got 2 back-to-back wins after 2 draws. I think it's really important in this period. We just keep we're in the grind. As we would say, we just need to get 3 points on the board. And if they're giving you that opportunity to score and take the points, then you've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Just do it. Simple as that. Yeah. 3 points, no injuries, and hopefully 29 shots given up. That would be absolutely delightful for us. We'll see what it brings. But then, ladies and gents, Saturday, the 28th of December, tomorrow it's 5:15 away at the London Stadium. We will play West Ham. We absolutely dominated Leicester. Don't get involved too much of what's happened previously. As the up boys say, don't fight the previous wars. We absolutely dominated Leicester. Let's hope it's the same this weekend. Which all it leads me to say as ever is, Bart, especially over Christmas time, for the time, the data, for the insight, it is much appreciated, pal.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me Up